McDonald's has a mission statement, and it makes you wonder a little bit about the value of a mission statement. Most mission statements, including a lot of mission statements by religious communities or by parishes, tend to talk about mission statements in terms of what we plan to do or what we are doing. What I need to go back to is that the subject of mission is not me, it's not McDonald's, and it's not even the church. The subject of mission is God. So that when we're talking about mission, we are first and foremost speaking about God. Now, I'll talk about God for probably the next 5 or 6 minutes, with the proviso that when we're talking about God, we're talking about mystery. And therefore, there's very, very little that I can actually say that is particularly coherent or comprehensive. Because every time we try to say something about mystery, it's like throwing words at a wall. They simply won't stick. God is beyond our words. God is beyond our comprehension. And so what we have to do when we're talking about God and when we're talking about mystery is use analogies. I myself teach in Chicago. And Chicago, as you may know, is very close to, right on the edge of Lake Michigan. Now, I come from England, and the largest lake in England is 10.5 miles long. And it's notable that we refer to the half a mile because it makes it slightly bigger than 10 miles, and we kind of think that this is very important. Lake Michigan is 325 miles long. Lake Michigan is 75 miles wide. You can stand on the edge of Lake Michigan and see nothing but water. Now, here's an analogy. The very, very first time I went down to a place which is known as the Point, which juts out into the lake a little bit, you are virtually surrounded by the lake. Whichever way you look, except behind you, you can see water everywhere. Now, here's an analogy with God. God is a little bit like Lake Michigan. And the very first time I stood there, I was literally amazed and astonished. And I was consciously aware of the fact that I could not grasp, I could not comprehend, I could not take in Lake Michigan, literally. And having just thought about the immensity of Lake Michigan, I said to myself something along the lines, "Oh my God, how great thou art," and just the size and the immensity of it. And with that baby thought, I then went back to my office and started to do something useful. Several months later, I was out at Lake Michigan again, and it was summertime. And as I sat by the lake, looking out on this lake and thinking, I cannot drink it in, I cannot take it in, it's astonishing, it's marvelous, it's bigger than me, I noticed that almost everybody else except myself was actually jumping into the lake. This is what we have to do with God. God is incomprehensible. We cannot take God in. So we throw ourselves into God. And if we can throw ourselves into God, then we will be sustained. We will be buoyed up. We will be able to float. But far from taking Lake Michigan into ourselves, Lake Michigan will take us into itself. So there's the first idea about God and about the enormity of God. The second kind of analogy that we might be able to use is what is called the organic analogy. And the organic analogy helps us to talk about the mystery that is God by speaking about breathing. God is, as it were, like breathing. When we think about breathing, we obviously have to think about breathing out and breathing in. You have to do both. From the moment we are born, we take our first breath and then continue to breathe until our last breath. Between birth and death, we are living beings, and the breathing out and the breathing in are reciprocal movements. So what might it mean if we said that God is like breathing? Well, first of all, breathing out. There's the prayer that we know very well. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and you will renew the face of the earth. So if we think about God as breathing out, this is now part of God's mission, the mission of God, God being the subject of it all. God's breathing out would be God's creative breath. Everything that exists by virtue of God's creative breath. So God's cosmic creative breathing out makes the world what it is. It creates everything that is, and there's nothing that is not created by God's creative breath. So God's breathing out is sustained and constant, and it goes back to long before the beginning of time. It is eternal, God's breathing out. What then might be God's breathing in?